The day my daughter-in-law looked me in the eye and said, "You should move out. This house is too small for all of us," she forgot one thing. I built this house with my hands. They changed the locks. They hid my own documents. They even whispered that once I was gone, they'd renovate and finally live like owners. So I stayed silent. I listened. And while they planned my eviction, I planned their destruction. One signature, one quiet visit to the lawyer, and the next morning, they learned the truth. The house they were trying to steal, I sold it, and I left them standing on the street with nothing. I built my home when I was 23, back when my husband and I still dreamed in the same direction, back when life was a long road and not a collection of memories that ache when touched. The house wasn't big, it wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Red brick walls, timber beams, a small garden that bloomed brighter than necessary. Every nail inside it had heard laughter. Every corner held reminders of the years I raised my son. He took his first steps on the uneven tiles of the living room. He learned to write his name on the kitchen table, scratching it into the wood. He learned how to ride a bike in the street outside, wobbling until his father steadied him. Even after my husband passed, the house remained full of memories, full of warmth, full of the life I fought to protect. I never imagined that one day I would be treated like a guest inside it. It started subtly. Ayan married a girl named Sophia. Soft-spoken, charming, the kind of daughter-in-law a mother prays for. Or so I thought. The first month was peaceful. She smiled often, she offered to help in the kitchen, she complimented the house like she admired its history. But admiration turned to restlessness. Restlessness turned to complaints. Complaints turned to whispers, whispers they thought I couldn't hear. "Your mom's routines are so old-fashioned. We need more space. This house is too small. She's always around." The day I walked into the living room and heard her say, "We can renovate once she moves out," something in my chest cracked. Move out? From my home? I waited for my son to correct her, to defend me, to say the truth that this was my house, my life's work. But all he said was, "We'll talk to her." The crack deepened. It happened on a Sunday morning. Sophia approached me with a rehearsed smile, her hands folded politely. "Auntie, we've been thinking, maybe you should move into a smaller place, somewhere easier for you. You know, for your comfort." My comfort. How kindly betrayal can be wrapped. "And why," I asked softly, "would I do that?" She exchanged a quick look with Ayan, a look that said everything. "Well," she continued, "this house is perfect for a young couple. Once we renovate, we can finally live properly." She said finally as if living under the same roof as me was a hardship they had been forced to endure. I turned to my son. "Ayan, you agree with this?" He didn't meet my eyes. "Mom, it's not like that. It's just, the house would be better used if I weren't here," I finished. His silence confirmed it. Something cold settled inside me. Not anger, not yet. Just clarity. I nodded. All right. They thought I had surrendered. A week later, I returned from visiting a neighbor and found the house locked. My key didn't work. I knocked once, twice. Sophia opened the door just a crack. "Oh, sorry, Auntie. We changed the locks. For security." "Security from whom?" "From me?" I smiled tightly and walked inside. A few days later, I discovered my documents missing. Property papers, tax receipts, the deed file. When I asked Ayan, he simply said, "I put them somewhere safe." Safe, a word people use when they don't want to tell you the truth. They didn't know that I kept the original deed somewhere else, somewhere only I knew. That was the day my anger slowly woke up. Not loud, not violent, but sharp and precise. I realized something with absolute certainty. They were planning to take everything from me. so I would take everything from them first. I went quiet. I cooked for them, smiled politely, stepped around their disrespect like it was rain. I let them think I was small, helpless, unaware. They discussed renovation plans openly. We'll knock down this wall. We'll extend the kitchen. This old flooring has to go. The garden, we can turn it into a patio. They spoke about my home like it was already theirs. And through all of it, I listened. Then, quietly, I visited a lawyer my husband once trusted. He examined the deed, traced the notarized seal, and asked gently, "Are you sure you want to sell this property? It's your family home." I didn't hesitate. It stopped being a family home the moment they asked me to leave it. Within 2 weeks, the sale was finalized, not to a family or struggling couple, but to a real estate investor who paid in cash and asked no unnecessary questions. The transfer was complete. The money was in my account. My revenge was ready. On a Friday morning, they sat sipping tea, discussing tile colors. I placed a letter in front of them, a formal notice from the new owner ordering all occupants to vacate within 30 days. Sophia blinked. Ion frowned. "What's this?" he asked. "Your eviction notice." "Eviction? From who?" "The new owner." He laughed nervously. "Mom, this is your house." "Was? Until I sold it." Silence filled the room. You sold the house?" "Yes." "To who?" "To an investor, a man who doesn't tolerate delays." Sophia shot up. "You can't do that. We live here." I met her glare calmly. "You wanted me to move out. Now all of us will." "But where will we go?" she demanded. I shrugged. "You're young. You'll figure it out." For the first time, they tasted what it felt like to be dismissed. Their arrogance dissolved. Mine did not. I left with dignity. With the sale money, I moved into a small villa outside the city. Peaceful, sunlit, surrounded by lemon trees. No locks changed, no whispers behind doors. No one told me where I could or couldn't exist. Ion called for weeks, sometimes pleading, sometimes apologizing, sometimes shouting. I didn't answer. Forgiveness is not a door you walk through. It's a key you hand out when someone earns it. And they hadn't. Months later, I heard the investor had already resold the house after gutting it completely. Ion and Sophia moved into a small rental apartment. Their renovation dreams vanished. Their entitlement evaporated. Some lessons arrived gently, others strike like lightning. This one came as both. One day, Ion came to see me. He stood outside my new home, eyes swollen with regret. "Ummi, I'm sorry." "I know. But sorry doesn't rebuild what you broke." He cried, and for the first time in months, I rested my hand on his shoulder. "I didn't destroy you. I only gave you what you tried to give me." And he understood. Respect is a currency. Spend it carelessly, and you end up bankrupt. This story isn't just about revenge. It's about dignity, about boundaries, about a woman who refused to be erased from the home she built. People forget that mothers may be gentle, but they are never weak. Sometimes the quietest women deliver the loudest consequences. The moment the spoon touched my lips, something felt wrong. But it wasn't the gravy, it was the way my son was staring at me. Too eager, too focused, as if he wasn't waiting for me to taste it, but for something to happen. So instead, I smiled, slid my plate across the table, and said, "Sweetheart, you try it first." He froze, and that's when the entire room went silent because the truth started spilling out faster than the gravy itself. The house smelled of cinnamon, sage, and roasted turkey, a blend of warmth and memory that had always made Thanksgiving my favorite holiday. Not because of the tradition itself, but because for one day each year, my family pretended to be whole again, pretended that the fractures running through us were not as deep as they were, pretended that time hadn't changed the shape of our love. But this year, as I stood over the counter stirring mashed potatoes, something heavy hung in the air. Something I couldn't name but felt in the stiffness of my shoulders and the tightness in my jaw. My son, Daniel, was already here, too early. Earlier than he'd ever been in the last decade of holidays, where I'd gotten used to receiving the text, "Running a little late, Mom." But today, he had shown up 2 hours before dinner, stepping into the kitchen with a bright, strained smile and a bowl covered with foil. "I made special gravy," he had announced, lifting it like some kind of offering. "Just for you." It should have been sweet. It should have touched me. Instead, I felt the same chill I feel when a dog suddenly stops barking and begins staring at something unseen. He hovered in the kitchen, wiping non-existent crumbs from the counter, asking if I needed help, if the turkey was done, if the table was set. Questions he'd never asked in his adult life. Daniel, my brilliant, stubborn, once lovely boy, had grown distant in the last few years. Calls were short, visits were shorter. His marriage had fallen apart, and I had tried not to pry, even though mothers always know more than their children tell them. He'd grown harder, quieter, and sometimes his eyes held something resentful, something I didn't understand. But I loved him. He was my child, the one I carried beneath my heart for 9 months, the one whose forehead I kissed every night until he decided he was too old for bedtime kisses. But now he stood too close, his smiles too quick, his laugh too hollow. That bowl of gravy sat on the counter like it was waiting for a cue to enter the story. "I really want you to try it," he said at one point, his voice light but tight. I spent all night perfecting it. A strange unease crawled up my spine. We moved to dinner. Candles lit, tablecloth smoothed, family gathered. Daniel sat to my right, just like he used to as a little boy, never liking to sit far from me, always wanting my attention. But tonight, the closeness felt different. Watching me, watching the bowl. When the turkey was carved, when the plates were passed, Daniel leaned forward and slid the small bowl toward me. "Mom, try this special gravy I made." The bowl was warm, steam curled up, carrying an unfamiliar, slightly metallic scent. Not unpleasant, just wrong. I stirred it with the ladle. Thick, darker than normal gravy. The smell that rose felt heavier, almost bitter beneath the herbs. My stomach tightened. Across the table, I noticed Daniel watching me with a focus so intense it felt like a spotlight. I lifted the spoon, and that metallic scent hit me again. Sharp. Something inside me, the part that kept Daniel safe when he was a baby, the part that could sense his fevers before they spiked, the part that had woken up in the middle of the night moments before he cried, whispered, no. Mothers know, sometimes without knowing how. I lowered the spoon. Daniel blinked, surprised. "Aren't you going to taste it?" I smiled softly. "Of course I am." Then, as casually as taking a breath, I slid my plate toward him. "But you try it first. You're the chef." His face drained so quickly it was like watching blood disappear through the floorboards. I already tasted it, Mom." I tilted my head. "I didn't see you." His hand jerked, a tiny movement, but noticeable. His throat bobbed. The air changed. The clatter of forks quieted. The room held its breath. "Daniel," I said gently, "try it." For a moment, he looked like a terrified little boy again. Then he pushed back his chair, standing so fast it scraped loudly against the floor. "I said I already tasted it." His voice cracked like glass. Conversation died. My niece froze mid-reach. My brother's eyes widened. My sister-in-law looked down, as if the tablecloth suddenly became fascinating. I stayed seated, calm, watching my son unravel. Because now I wasn't scared for myself. I was scared for him. He stormed into the kitchen, pacing. I stood and followed quietly. He didn't hear me at first. His hands shook as he pressed them against the counter. His shoulders trembled, and then he whispered something that shredded the air between us. I couldn't let you take everything from me, Mom. My mouth went dry. Daniel, what are you talking about? He turned. His eyes were shiny, red-rimmed, broken. Do you know what it feels like, he said, voice trembling, to have nothing, to lose your marriage, to lose your home, to have your own father leave everything to you in a will, and then find out he changed it before he died and left it all to you? His voice cracked on the last word, pointing at me like it was a crime. And suddenly, I understood. My husband, his father, had changed his will before he passed. I had begged him not to tell Daniel while he was going through a rough patch. He needs stability, I had said, not disappointment. So we kept it quiet. Daniel thought he was inheriting the house, the savings, the land, the stocks. Then he found out, not because we told him, but because his lawyer ex-wife did, out of spite. Do you know what it felt like, he whispered, to realize you picked her over me? His chest heaved. You always pick her. You always pick everyone else. My heart splintered. Daniel, that's not true. You lie. You said you'd take care of me. You said you'd help me get back on my feet, but you kept everything. And now look at me. My life is falling apart. He shoved the bowl. It slid across the counter, sloshing. And I thought... His voice faltered. He looked away, ashamed. I thought if you weren't here anymore, everything would go back to how it was supposed to be. My breath caught. He covered his face. I didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted my life back. And the tragedy in his voice was worse than the fear. I stepped forward. Daniel, I whispered, look at me. Whatever is happening in your life, we fix it together. But you don't fix pain by destroying someone who loves you. He sobbed into his palms, shaking violently. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I closed the distance and held him like I did when he was 5 years old and woke from nightmares. He collapsed into me, crying, broken, ashamed, and terrified of himself. My son, my baby, lost in a darkness he didn't know how to navigate. When we returned to the table, the family stared, confused, concerned. I simply said, "Dinner's over. Daniel isn't feeling well." And no one asked questions. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the edge of my bed while Daniel slept in the guest room upstairs, the same room he slept in as a teenager, walls still painted blue. I watched the moonlight spilling through the window and wondered where I had gone wrong, how love could twist into desperation, how fear could turn someone into someone unrecognizable. But I also knew this. I wasn't going to lose my son to his own darkness. The next morning, we talked for hours about everything. His marriage, his debts, his drinking, his loneliness, his resentment, his fear of disappointing me, his feeling that life kept ripping things from him. We talked until his shoulders eased and his breathing steadied. We talked until he realized he didn't want to die, and he didn't want me to either. We talked until the first hope in his voice appeared in months. He checked himself into therapy, into financial counseling, into rebuilding himself. It took months. Long months, hard months, but eventually he became someone he could look at in the mirror again. Years later, when people complimented his cooking, he would joke, "I only make gravy under supervision now." And we would laugh. Even though every Thanksgiving after that, I never forgot the moment I switched plates. I never forgot the look in his eyes. I never forgot how close I came to losing him, not because he hated me, but because he was drowning and thought dragging me under would make it stop. But Thanksgiving didn't die that year. My son lived. Our family lived. And the story that could have ended in tragedy became instead a story of truth, forgiveness, and survival. Because when you love someone, truly love them, you fight for them. You face the darkness with them. And sometimes you save them from themselves.
At 6:12 p.m., my wife walked out of the bedroom in a red dress she hadn't worn in years. "Where are you going?" I asked. She smiled, a nervous, guilty smile. "I told you, dinner. My ex is in town. I can't cancel." Those 4 words hit harder than any betrayal I'd imagined. So I stood up, looked her in the eye, and said quietly, "Then I'm ending our marriage." Her face drained instantly. She rushed toward me, grabbing my hands, stuttering excuses, but it was already too late. Because in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't losing her. I'd already lost her long ago. The evening began like any other, a quiet, unremarkable Wednesday that should have faded into the week like a soft breath. But instead, it became the night that split my life cleanly into before and after. Before the words that changed everything. Before the truth I had been avoiding stared me directly in the face. Before I realized that love, even when tended carefully, can wither in silence long before anyone admits it aloud. I had just returned from work, loosening my tie, feeling the weight of the day settle into my shoulders. The house felt unusually cold, not temperature-wise, but atmospherically, as if emotions clung to the walls in a muted hush. My wife, Evelyn, stood in the hallway, slipping on a pair of heels I hadn't seen her wear in almost a decade. Elegant ones, the type meant to impress, not to blend in. She was wearing a deep red dress. Not her office attire, not her casual going out with the girls dress. This one was different. Fitted, bold, romantic. Too romantic. I froze for a moment, watching her run a hand through her hair, adjusting a strand behind her ear the way she always did when she wanted to look perfect for someone. The sight carved a line through my chest. I stepped forward, my voice even. "Where are you going?" She hesitated only a second, 1 second too long. "Dinner," she said lightly. "I told you, a friend from out of town." I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't mention who?" She pretended to check her purse, avoiding my eyes. "It's just dinner, don't make it weird." But everything in her tone was weird, tense, defensive, almost rehearsed. "I'm only asking who," I replied, calm but firm. She sighed, a sharp, annoyed sigh that cut deeper than she intended. "Fine, it's Daniel." I stared at her. "Your ex." She rolled her eyes. "Yes, my ex, but we're adults, aren't we? He's in town for one night. He asked if we could catch up." I felt the room tilt slightly, the air thinning. "And you didn't think that was something to talk to me about?" "It's harmless," she said too quickly. "We were friends before we dated. We're just catching up." "Dressed like that?" I asked, my voice quieter now, but colder too. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "So what? I want to look nice." "For who?" I whispered. She paused. That pause was my answer. My pulse thudded dully in my ears. Something inside me, a dam, a wall, a robe holding things together, finally snapped. "I can't cancel," she said again, softer this time, as if she realized too late how wrong everything sounded. It would be rude. And that was it. That was the moment the dam burst. I stepped closer, so close she finally had to meet my eyes. "If you walk out that door to have dinner with your ex, then I'm ending our marriage." Her breath hitched sharply. Her pupils widened. Her bag slipped from her hand and landed on the floor with a soft thud. "What?" she whispered. "You heard me." Her lips parted, trembling. You can't be serious." But I was. Serious in a way I had never been before. Serious in a way that steadied my heartbeat and straightened my spine. Serious in a way that tasted like truth. "You're choosing him, but you expect me to stay silent?" Her face crumpled. No, it's not like that." But it was exactly like that. She just didn't expect me to see it. "I'm not forbidding you. I'm giving you a choice. Go to the dinner, and our marriage ends tonight. Stay, and we talk about why you felt the need to hide this." Tears filled her eyes instantly, panic flooding in like a rising tide. She rushed toward me, grabbing my arm, her voice breaking. "Please, don't say that. You're overreacting. I didn't mean it like that. I wasn't thinking."
You were thinking, I corrected gently. You just weren't thinking about me. Her knees buckled. She sank onto the edge of the sofa, covering her face as tears streamed down. The red dress that once looked beautiful now looked guilty, broken, accusing. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then, through sobs, she whispered, "I'll cancel. I'll cancel right now. Please, please don't leave me." But the truth was already spreading through the room like smoke, unavoidable, suffocating. I had already lost her long ago. We weren't always like this. There was a time when Evelyn and I felt unstoppable, as if nothing could dent us. We used to laugh until we cried, stay up late talking about nonsense, dance in the kitchen for no reason at all. We used to be friends, best friends. But somewhere along the years, somewhere between responsibilities, exhaustion, disappointments, and unspoken resentment, we drifted. Imperceptibly at first, slowly, a millimeter here, an inch there, until one day we woke up sharing a bed, but not a life. People think marriages end with a scream, a slamming door, a betrayal. But sometimes they die quietly, in the sighs, in the silences, in the way one person stops reaching out and the other stops fighting to be reached. Her ex, Daniel, was a ghost we never fully put to rest. They dated for 3 years before me. He left her without warning, broke her. She swore she was done with him, but some heartbreaks never fully heal. They remain tucked away in dark corners of the heart, waiting for a flicker of attention to reignite them. I always knew it, but I believed in her. I believed she chose me. I believed I mattered.
She finally lifted her head.
Tonight made
Mascara
me
streaked
question
across her
everything.
cheeks. "I wasn't going there to cheat," she whispered. "I swear. I just wanted to see how he was doing." I sat across from her. "Why?" Her lips trembled. "Because he reached out to me last month, said he was going through a divorce, said he missed talking to me." My stomach twisted. "And you didn't tell me?" "I didn't want you to feel insecure." My laugh came out hollow. "If your marriage requires hiding your ex because your husband might be insecure, then something is deeply wrong." Her shoulders slumped. "I know, and I messed up. I messed up badly." But the worst was still unsaid. Something lingered behind her silence. "Evelyn," I said softly, "tell me the truth." She squeezed her eyes shut, fresh tears slipped down. I never stopped wondering about what would have happened if he hadn't left me. A knife couldn't have cut deeper. 1,000 moments flashed through me. Birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, moments I thought were ours, but apparently weren't. Not fully. "Do you love him?" I asked quietly. "No," she answered. Immediately, but too quickly, too automatically. Then she amended, voice cracking. "I don't think so." My chest hollowed out. Every breath felt like inhaling glass. You were willing to risk our marriage for someone who left you years ago?
Her face crumpled again. I didn't think you'd care this much. You're always so calm, so quiet. I thought maybe you didn't love me the same anymore. I stared at her, disbelief and pain swirling together. You thought I didn't love you, so you ran to the man who broke you? I didn't run, she whispered. I just walked backward. That line haunted me. Walked backward. Into the past, into memory, into longing for something that was never coming back. And she hadn't once looked over her shoulder to see what it was doing to me. After what felt like hours of silence, I finally spoke. I'm ending our marriage because of dinner, I said. I'm ending it because you stopped choosing me long before tonight. Her breath hitched. Please, please don't say that. I'm choosing you now. You're choosing me because you got caught, I corrected. There's a difference. She clutched my hands desperately, tears dripping onto our fingers. I'll do anything. Therapy, marriage counseling. I'll cut all contact with him. I'll delete his number. Please, please don't leave me. For a moment, I almost softened. Almost. Because when someone begs like that, when their entire body shakes with remorse, when their love, flawed, fragile, reaches for you, it's hard not to reach back. But then I remembered the red dress, the pause, the guilt, the longing she tried to hide, the years of emotional distance. Something inside me hardened. I'm not punishing you, I said quietly. I'm letting you go. Her face collapsed. No, don't. Please don't. You need time, I said softly, to figure out what you want. And I need time to heal from realizing I wasn't enough. She sobbed silently, shoulders trembling. I don't want him, I swear. I want you. Then why did you dress up for him? I whispered. She broke completely at that, collapsed inward, tears spilling, breath hitching. There was nothing left to say. Not tonight. She canceled the dinner while crying uncontrollably. Her voice shook so badly during the call that the words came out broken. I watched her pace the kitchen, watched the emotional unraveling of a woman who realized too late what she had risked. But something inside me felt numb. She slept on the couch that night, not because I told her to, but because she said she didn't deserve to sleep beside me. I stared at the ceiling until dawn. Sleep never came. Only questions. When did we fall out of sync? When did she stop feeling loved? When did I stop showing it? When did we slowly walk away from each other without noticing? Love doesn't die in one night. It fades. Quietly, softly, silently. Until one day, someone dresses up for the past instead of the present. My wife stood in the kitchen doorway, one hand on her hip, the other holding her phone like it was something precious. Adam, I already told you, she said, her tone annoyingly casual. I can't cancel dinner with my ex. We've been planning this for weeks. I stared at her, not quite believing what I was hearing. You can't cancel? I repeated slowly. A dinner with your ex? She rolled her eyes. Why are you making this dramatic? Because my wife, my partner of 14 years, the woman I trusted, was dressing up to go dine privately with the man she almost married before.